Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our virtual business personal property BPP statement webinar and Q&A session hosted by the Office of Los Angeles County Assessor Jeff Prang. I am Ted Olguin, Chief of Staff over Public Affairs and Communications, and I will be moderating today's webinar. Before we begin, please allow me to break down how today's webinar will work along with some important Zoom functions. Today, we will begin with a presentation from Principal Appraiser Frank Pavone, who will provide an overview of the business personal property statement and its importance. Next, we will have our assessors team answer a handful of our most frequently asked questions. Finally, we will conclude this webinar by answering questions directly from you. Throughout the entirety of today's webinar, we do invite you to submit your question via Zoom's question and answer function. Our subject matter experts will be answering your questions throughout the webinar. For those attendees who are unfamiliar with Zoom, I would like to point out a few features that you should be aware of. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a green check mark surrounded by a green box. When you click on it, another screen should pop up where you will have the opportunity to type your question to our team using the question and answer function. Once you submit your question will be sent to our panelist team to be reviewed and answered. Once our team answers the question, it will reappear for everyone in the audience to see. You may submit a question throughout the entire webinar. You don't have to wait till the Q&A. Any questions submitted by the audience not covered by our commonly asked question section will be verbally answered during our live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. We thank you all for joining us today. And now I want to turn it over to Frank, who will provide a presentation and an overview of the business personal property submission process. Frank, let me pull up your presentation and you can take it away.
Thank you, Ted. Good morning, everyone. And again, like Ted said, thank you for joining us today. I'm going to give you an overview regarding the business property statement, the form itself, some important dates, and just some background information regarding the filing. Also, keep in mind, at the end of this slideshow that you're going to be seeing, I'm going to show you where you can actually see the full PowerPoint presentation, which is more extensive than my overview I'm going to give you. Next slide, Ted, please. Thank you. So the business property statement is a form that the assessor requests. There's two conditions that I'll get into later, but it involves your personal property if you own a business. So what is personal property? Let's start with that. Well, personal property is all property except real estate. So there's different types of personal property. There's taxable personal property. So for your business, it's machinery and equipment, it's office furniture, it's computers, it's supplies also. There is some personal property that is not taxable, and those type of properties include household goods, your furniture at home. If you're, for example, if you're a clothing store, you have a retail business or a shoe store, the items you have for sale are also not taxable because they're a business inventory, okay? And there's also non-taxable intangible property, bank accounts, liquor licenses, cash, insurance policies. These things are intangible and we usually don't assess them. Next slide, please. So what gives the assessor the legal basis to tax your property? Well, the California Constitution, Article 13, Section 1A says that all property is taxable, and there's something that goes after that unless exempt. So in general, properties that are owned and used by educational, charitable, religious, or government organizations may be exempt from property taxes. We do have an exemption in our office. So if, for example, you're a not-for-profit business or a religious institution, you can file an exemption with our department. There'll be more information on that later. Next slide, please. So the assessor has some basic responsibilities that help us do our job and help serve the public of the County of Los Angeles. Number one, we are tasked with locating all taxable property in the county, and we also have to identify ownership so we know who to send a tax bill to. Part of our job also is arriving at a taxable value for all property that's taxed. That includes a business or a home or land, commercial property. Also, we also prepare an assessment roll that we do annually, showing all the assessments in the county of Los Angeles. Um, and keep in mind that this assessment roll, this report is provided on our website annually. You can go there, you can see yourself, you can see the different cities within the county and how much they were assessed. And like I mentioned earlier, we do have an exemptions department, and their job is to apply exemptions. Now, some exemptions are automatic, like if you're a government institution. But like I said, if you claim to be a not-for-profit, you would have to file an exemption with our exemptions department. Thank you. Next slide, please. So how do we find your business? How did you get a business property statement form to you? So we have appraisers in the county of Los Angeles, and their job is to go out and do a field canvass. They go through all the commercial areas in the county of LA, and then they talk to business owners. Whenever we see a new business, we put that in our system. Also, we get referrals and information from the business property statement itself. For example, we'll get a filing and this business owner said, okay, I bought this business from so-and-so, or I sold my business to someone else. So information from the property statement itself is how we find a business. We also do property tax audit. The form itself is subject to audit. And sometimes if you're a bigger business, depending on the type of property you have, you might be audited. And just real quick, when we do an audit, we do a 4-year audit. Also, we get information from sales tax permits, from the Board of Equalization. There's business journals, news articles, industry websites, city license records, and then California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control. Next slide, please. So there's two conditions in where a business property statement must be filed. Okay, the first condition is if you own more than 100,000 cost of taxable personal property, you are required to file a business property statement, even if our office does not request it. And the second condition where a property statement is required is if the assessor requests the form from you. So and this typically happens when we're out doing the field canvas. One of our appraisers notices a new company that just started business. And so we try to get as much information as we can while we're out there, but sometimes not information is available. So we request a business property statement. So again, two conditions must be met for you to file a statement. Number one, if you have over 100,000 in cost. And the second one is if the assessor requests the form. Next slide, please. So here's some important things regarding the lien date. Okay, the lien date is the date where your property becomes taxable, and that's as of 12:01 a.m. on January 1st. This is the lien date. If you were in business as of that date, you might be subject to tax. Again, personal property is assessable only if taxable on this date. You declare all your costs and anything related to your business property as of this date. Next slide, please. So on the business property statement itself, the due date on the form is April 1st, okay? But you have until May 7th, 5 p.m. on May 7th, to file the form without a penalty. Now, if that May 7th falls on a weekend or a holiday, the deadline would be the next business day. This year, that's not an issue because I believe May 7th falls on a Thursday this year, okay? Now, if we do receive your business property statement after that due date, 5 p.m. May 7th, there is a 10% penalty that would be added to your assessment. So a 10% penalty is added on two conditions. Number one, if it's late filed, or number two, if it's not filed at all. Business property tax bills entered on the unsecured roll as of July 31st, 2026 are due August 31st of 2026 without any penalties to the tax bill. Next slide, please. So the business property statement itself is confidential, is not open for public inspection. It can only be viewed by the owner or its agent or representative, its CPA or attorney. If the owner allows us, they may be able to view the form itself. And like I mentioned earlier, the statement is subject to audit. we can audit the form, and then there's a process for that. But usually smaller businesses, we don't. Next slide, please. So like I mentioned earlier, so this is just basically an overview of the filing. But if you go to our website, there is a full presentation, more extensive uh, PowerPoint presentation with slides and different scenarios and what to do in different situations that affects you. Also keep in mind on our website, also the presentation is presented in several languages, also like Farsi, Spanish, Armenian. So it's very useful information to go to our website and get a more in-depth presentation of the subject matter. Thank you. Ted?
Great. Thank you, Frank. Much appreciated. And just a friendly reminder to all of our attendees who are on today, we are going to answer some of the most commonly asked questions here live with our team of experts, but also a reminder that the question and answer function on Zoom is available for you throughout the webinar. You don't have to wait until after these questions are answered to submit your question. If you have a pressing question that you would like answered, please submit it. I'm sure that the rest of the attendees who are also on would find some insight into those questions and our responses. So please go ahead and use that function as it is available to you. But beginning with our commonly asked questions, we are going to answer 11 of the most commonly asked questions in regards to business personal property statements. And kicking off with question 1. I'm going to invite Lashika Veal to answer. Am I required to file a business property statement? And Lashika, if you are answering, we might not be able to hear you because you might be muted.
This is Melissa. Lashika's having trouble with her internet connection, so I'm going to take over her question. Question number 1 says, am I required to file a business property statement? And the answer is yes. If you are required to file a business property statement, if you own over an aggregate cost of $100,000 of business personal property, or if the assessor has requested one from you.
Great. Thanks so much for stepping in, Melissa. Much appreciated. Thank you for getting us a response to, am I required to file a business personal property statement? Moving on to question number 2, which will be answered by Shirley Keefe-Edgian. Question 2, Shirley, when is the lien date?
Property becomes taxable on the lien date, which the lien date is the 12:01 a.m. on January the 1st.
Great. Nice and easy. Thank you so much, Shirley, for answering that for us and for our attendees. Moving on to question 3. And question 3, we're going to invite Sabrina Tan to answer this. Can we get an extension if the form is due April 1? Sabrina?
The filing was due on April 1st. However, we are still accepting submissions without the 10% late filing penalties through May 7th by 5 p.m. This year, May 7th falls on a Thursday. If May 7th falls on a weekend or holiday in future years, the deadline will be extended to the next business day by 5 p.m.
Great. Thanks for giving us a little insight into that, Sabrina. Moving on to question 4, which we are going to invite Marie Christine Martinez to answer. Question 4, what if I don't file the business property statement form? Marie, do you want to answer that for our guests?
Yes, Ted. So if you don't file the business property statement, the assessor is required by law to estimate the value of your business property and fixtures on the lien date. In addition, a 10% non-filing penalty will be added to the assessed value if you do not file the business property statement by May 7th.
Great. Thanks, Marie. And I do want to highlight that I see that some of our attendees are using the question and answer function. For those attendees, you may have a question that's being answered. If you want to check out that question and answer, the responses are available for you to see. Moving on to question 5, I'm going to invite Joshua Ramirez to answer this. Can I file my statement online?
Yes, you actually may file your statement online, but you will need 2 things. You're going to need your assessment number and an assigned PIN number. Usually first-time filers won't have a PIN assigned. However, you can call the office at 213-974-2643, or you can even email us at efile@assessor.lacounty.gov, and our e-file team can assist you with getting a PIN number if, of course, your company qualifies for that.
Great. Thanks so much, Josh. And part of the assessor's commitment to updating and modernizing our services, happy that we have this available to file online. Going to question 6, what if I discover an error in my filing after submission? Going to ask Melissa Stewart to answer question 6.
If you discover an error after filing, you can always submit an amended statement up until May 31st.
Great. Thanks for helping us clear that up, Melissa. Moving into question 7, which we are going to invite Arpane Gukasian to answer. How do I report equipment disposals from the prior year? Arpane, do you want to answer that for us?
Sure. So the disposal costs are adjusted in the year that the equipment was purchased, not in the year that equipment was disposed, meaning that if the equipment was purchased in 2019 and disposed in 2025, you remove the cost from 2019, not 25.
Got it. Thanks so much, Arpane. Moving into question 8, which we are going to invite Winnie Shao to answer. Question 8, what if I disagree with my assessed value? Winnie?
If you disagree with the assessed value, you can contest the value through the Los Angeles County Assessment Appeals Board from July 2nd to November 30th of the same tax year.
Great. And we'll put some information in the chat for everybody about how to do that with the AAB. Moving into question 9, going to invite Eleanoush Sarkisian to answer question 9. Do you prorate the tax bill if I was only in business part of the year? Eleanoush, would you like to answer that for us?
Sure. Your unsecured tax bill is not prorated, even if you were only at the site as part of the year. However, if you moved in after the lien date, you would not be liable for taxes in that respective year.
Got it. Thanks so much, Eleanoush. And moving into question 10, we're going to invite Melissa Stewart back to answer question 10 for us. Melissa, when is my tax bill due?
The tax bill will be due by 5 p.m. on August 31st. You may receive your bill before that, anytime between May and July through July. However, it will not be due until August 31st.
Got it. Thanks for clearing that up for us. Yes, Eleanoush.
Ed, I'm sorry. I may add that the tax bills are mailed out between March 1st and June 30th of each year. But the bill become delinquent if not paid by 5 p.m. on August 31st.
Got it. Thanks, Melissa, and thanks, Eleanoush, for giving us a little bit more insight into the specifics on that. And finally, question 11. We're going to invite Chelsea Tan to answer question 11 for us. Chelsea, my business personal property was damaged or destroyed in the January 2025 wildfires. Is there any relief available?
Please do not report the cost of equipment that was damaged or destroyed due to the Southern California wildfires. In this situation, you may use the remarks section of the form to notify us that the equipment was damaged due to the fire damage. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Chelsea. So that wraps up the extent of our 11 most commonly asked questions. If you're questions were answered during this time, great. If not, please continue to use that question and answer function that is available to you at the bottom of your screen. I know that there have been a handful of questions that have been being submitted throughout the chat. And I actually see one right now that I think would be helpful. And it looks like Francisco is willing to answer that live. Francisco, do you want to answer? Let's pull up that question. Well, can you give us more examples of what falls under personal property? Is it furniture and fixtures?
Thank you, Ted. Yeah, so anything that's used in the business, tangible personal property that's used in your business. If you work in an office, your office furniture, your computers, your supplies. If you work in a manufacturing facility, machinery and equipment that you use to make a product. So those are the type of things that you would need to report on the property statement form itself.
Great. Thank you so much, Francisco. And I know that our team has answered a handful of questions that the answers are now in the chat, but it looks like we just got another question through the chat. If you realize there was a mistake in the cost reported in the previous year, can you make the adjustment when reporting this year's information? Do I have anybody that wants to answer that one live for us?
I can answer that. Yes, you can correct the cost that you reported wrong last year. And it would be helpful if you put some remarks on correction so that we will understand what is the nature of the correction.
Great. Thank you so much, Eleanoush. And let's answer this one just for fun. Eleanoush, I saw that you answered this for our attendees, but the question is personal property like inventory if you were selling t-shirts, let's say? And I know Francisco provided some insight into that.
Right. The inventory is not accessible. So whatever that you're selling in the regular course of your business, for example, if you're selling t-shirts, the t-shirts are inventory and won't be accessible. But supplies are different. Supplies are little supplies that you're using, let's say copy papers, stationery that you're using. Those are supplies. You're not selling the supplies. So supplies are accessible and you have to report the supplies. Inventory, no, inventory is not accessible.
Got it. Thank you so much for providing us a little bit more insight into that, Eleanoush.
Sure.
Eleanoush team, I know we've got a handful of questions that have been submitted and answered in the question and answer. Does anybody want to answer one of these questions out loud for attendees who may not be able to see the Q&A? And I know we've kind of already gone over this, but it doesn't hurt to clarify, especially when it comes to due dates for these. What's the statement due for aircraft? Is aircraft a different due date from other personal properties, Eleanoush, or are they all the same?
No, aircraft, vessels, boats, they are all accessible business property. And even though the form itself is not the same as 571L, but we have the forms, but due date is still April 1st. And if not filed by 5 p.m. on May 7th, which is a Thursday this year, it will be assessed, a 10% late filing penalty will be applied to the assessment.
Got it. Thank you so much, Eleanoush. And I know we're talking about due dates and e-file. Everybody should have access to the chat. I did just share the direct link to the e-file page of our website so that members of the public can just click on that. You can see the requirements and get started on the process. So that's available there for you as well.
Ted, there's a live question that I would like to answer.
Okay.
The question is, if the supplies were already used, is it still reportable? So in terms of supplies, we want you to report what you have on the lien date, which is January 1st. So whatever you have on hand. Typically, like a good average, remember, it's an estimate. It's not an exact number unless you know it. So you take your annual expenses of supplies for the entire year divided by 12. So we assume you have 1 month on hand, and that's the amount you would report on the business property statement. If it's not there, you shouldn't report it. So it's already been consumed. But so it's basically whatever you have on site as of the lien date.
Great. Thanks, Francisco. And it looks like Tanya wants to answer this live for everybody. Tanya, we got a question. Is there a recommended way or template available to use to keep track of business property?
Yes. We found that the best way to keep track of your business property is on your depreciation schedule or your very own balance sheets. That's very helpful when it's updated every year in reporting on the business property statement. But currently, the assessor's office does not offer a separate type of template for that.
Great. Thanks so much, Tanya, for answering that for us. And
Let me add a little bit more to that, Ted. So a good practice is also, it's good to keep track of your assets. And one thing to note is if something has been sold or disposed or transferred out of the county, it should not be reported on the business property statement. So that's why it's important, like what she said, you keep your depreciation schedule up to date. Make sure you make any changes, something breaks down and something you dispose of, make sure you remove it from the reported cost, because then you're essentially paying tax on something that you no longer own or that's no longer in your possession.
Got it. Thank you for that important clarification and insight, Francisco. And I know that questions being asked or submitted are dwindling down. I do just want to reiterate something that Francisco communicated earlier, was that if you require this information in a different language, Mandarin, Farsi, Spanish, Armenian, we do have pre-recorded webinars just like this that include the presentation and the question and answers in those language available on our website. So if you, or maybe you have family or friends who need this information in another language, they're able to visit our website. We do have those videos uploaded in the news and information section of our website where they can view those. But otherwise, please, we still do have about 30 minutes of time allocated to this webinar. Looks like, our participants are dwindling down, but if you have any questions, attendees, please submit them. Let's get those questions answered for you so that, you don't have to follow up with a phone call or an email. Happy to get, any questions straightened out here. And also that goes to our panelists as well. If there's, any other information that you think we weren't able to cover in either the presentation or the 11 most commonly asked questions, opening up the floor to you as well to give a little bit more insight into the specifics.
There is a question that I answered, and it's an interesting question. It might be a question for others too. The participant is asking, is the Form 571L required for an existing business or the landlord? The 571L business property is for the owner of the business. It doesn't matter if you're leasing or you're owning the place. So whoever owns, possesses, or controls the asset as of lien date is liable for the reporting and being assessed for the business property. So if you're leasing your location and you're conducting a business from a leased location, still you are the owner of the business. You have to file.
Understood. Thank you, Elanush. And I see that, I think this is actually a similar question, kind of in a similar vein to what you just spoke about, Elanush. And I see that Winnie is answering this for us, or typing the answer. Winnie, did you want to answer this for our attendees as well? Let's see if I can find the question. If you acquire business property from another business or individual at no charge, how would this be handled?
So, in terms of reporting, you will still report any business assets at the original acquisition cost, and that's really what we want. So any business property that has been transferred to you with the business, you will continue to report that.
Got it. Thank you, Winnie. And Tanya, I think I saw your hand up earlier. Was there something that you wanted to add clarification on?
Yes, I'd like to touch base on part 3 of the business property statement, where the, where you are required to report any leased equipment. And that means leased equipment that you are leasing from another entity. And that should only be reported there until you become the owner. And that's when you would report it under Schedule A and remove it from Part 3 of the business property statement. So I just wanted to make that clarification because we just had a couple of questions regarding that this week.
Got it. Thank you for clearing that up for us, Tanya. And we do have another question that just came through the chat. And I'll leave this to our panelists to decide who wants to answer. But just got the question: what is the difference between the 571L and the 571R? Do I need to file the 571L if I file the 571R?
R is really hard, I think.
Tanya, looks like.
Okay, so the 571L is for business personal property, whereas the 571R is for apartment assessments. So if your business is dealing with apartments and you receive the Form 571R from the assessor, you do not need to complete the 571L.
Mhm.
But if you have two type of businesses, one being apartments and another being a regular business, then yes, you would need to complete both. And please correct add anything more, Eleanor?
No, you're definitely correct. If they receive the business property for the apartments, 571R, and they have to file it. If they are conducting other kind of business from that apartments, then 571L has to be also parallelly signed, filled but 571L is for the businesses and 571R is for apartment owners.
Got
Thank
it.
you.
Understood. Thank you, Eleanor, and thank you, Tanya. Great. Like I said, it looks like the questions being submitted are slowing down. I'm going to give this final opportunity to our panelists to share, like I said, any final points of clarification or other information that they think wasn't clarified.
And I was gonna add, we were talking about the full presentation being on our website and also in multiple languages. One of the benefit of the full presentation is that we deal with different scenarios, how to report machinery and equipment. We also get into leasehold improvements, which is a different animal in itself, about well, I'm just a landlord, I'm just leasing it, or I'm not the landlord, I'm just leasing it. So there's different types of leasehold improvements that are accessible on this form and some that are not. So the presentation gives you examples. There's other examples such as construction in progress. Tanya mentioned earlier leased equipment. You can be either a lessee, meaning you're leasing equipment from someone else, or you can also be a lessor where you're in the business of leasing out equipment. Like, for example, construction equipment, you might lease out forklifts. So the full presentation kind of goes into these different scenarios to give you a better understanding on how to file the form.
Got it. Thank you. Yes, and like Francisco just mentioned, those are available online on our website. You can visit the real estate toolkit or the news and information where webinars and presentations are loaded there, as well as our office YouTube account. And I just got a request to please share the direct link to the presentations. I will put that direct link to previous recorded presentations in the chat. Everybody should have access to that, so hopefully you can see that. I've also included a direct link to the e-file for the BPP, so that's available for you as well. So all those resources are there and they're available on our website for you. Gonna extend, a final call to our attendees who are on the webinar today to ask any final questions. And again, a final just invitation to our panelists as well to provide any final information before we go ahead and wrap this up if we're all done.
I'd like to remind everybody to please sign your property statement. It's not acceptable if we do not have the proper signature.
Super important. Thank you for clarifying that for us, Tanya. Yes, please make sure that property statement is signed. And it looks like Latoya, you have your hand raised.
Yes, Ted. And yes, Tanya, definitely have it signed. One thing I would also add is please take advantage of your district resources. We do have appraiser of the days assigned to answer your questions. So depending on what type of question you have, you may want to give the district a call just to see if the appraiser can give you a small amount of guidance on the best way to answer the question. But definitely, we always recommend that you speak with your preparers or your CPAs if you're not, or if you're doing it, by yourself, you can definitely give us a call and we can do our best to answer your question.
Right.
Just to elaborate a little bit on what she said. So we do have district offices. Depending where your business is, you'll be assigned an office that has your jurisdiction. For example, I oversee the East District office. So any business in Pomona, Pasadena, on the east side of the county, you would call our office, number one. Or you can also send in questions regarding the form to the business pp at assessor.lacounty.gov. And
Yeah.
that goes to the entire office where if you need help with filling out the form, you have a specific question, you can call our office because we do business appraisers that provide public service. You can go to our offices also in person, or you can send us an email for convenience sake and have someone reply to your email and answer your question.
Thank
Ted,
you.
can I also read one of the questions that was just asked in another form as well?
Please do.
How is the submission of the form? Is there an online submission option? And right now, somebody was asking from Tanya if there is a way to file online the business property statements for apartments. Unfortunately, for apartments 571R, we don't have a e-file system. And the e-file system is only for businesses who are assigned a PIN number. Just like in the presentation was presented, if you have not been assigned a PIN number, you can call that number. I don't recall that number exactly. 213-974-2643, or email at efileassist@assessor.lacounty.gov. If you are eligible, they will assign you a PIN number. If not, you have to send your hard copy by mail. And the postmark should be 5 p.m. At the latest should be 5 p.m. on May 7th, so that you will not get penalized. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eleanoush. All right, well, Francisco, Eleanoush, the rest of our assessors team, unless anyone has any final comments, updates, points of clarifications they want to make. It looks like the questions have been exhausted on our question and answer tool. No one's submitting anymore. Again, to our members of the public who logged on with us this morning, if you do have any additional questions that may pop up after we log off and wrap up this webinar, please visit our website. There is a contact form that you can submit. Please use the contact form or the other resources and tools online that are available at your disposal. Otherwise, I do want to thank everybody, our members of the public, our staff, on behalf of LA County Assessor Jeff Prang, for allowing us to bring these services and these resources to you. Again, we are here to serve on your behalf. So please reach out in the future if you ever need any resources from us. Otherwise, given that Looks like no more questions are answered. Looks like our panelists have given all the information they can. I'm going to be ending the webinar, and we'll go ahead and we'll have this webinar uploaded to our website along with our other pre-recorded sessions for you all to view at a later date if needed. So once again, thank you all so much. And hopefully you join us again for future webinars or other resource fairs.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.